Oregon 23, the Texas Tech Red Raiders 0.
Yeah.
Zip. Nada. Oregon advances by winning in the Capital One Orange Bowl. Dan Rubenstein. They're moving on to the semifinals.
Yes.
I will turn it over to you as our resident Oregon alum and aficionado. I have many thoughts on the game that we saw, but I guess we could start off where I think everybody's mind is going to go first. This was perhaps much more of a defensive struggle than we thought coming in. We knew it would be to some extent, given the teams that were part of this one. Yeah. But 23-0, the way that this one played out, I don't know if anyone quite had this level of defense on the bingo card.
No, not to this extent. Of course not. Okay, first and foremost, this year's quarters as an Oregon fan, a lot better a day for me than last year's quarters as an Oregon fan, giving up the 31 straight to start the game against Ohio State last year in the Rose Bowl. Secondly, no, nobody thought about this in terms of a defensive back and forth. Obviously, everybody knows about and continues to know about the excellence of Texas Tech's defense, especially up front. Oregon has not played a defense as good as Texas Tech's, especially given that the Texas Tech defense was on the field as much as it was because of the ineptitude of their own offense. That Oregon has fast, talented players that thrive in space and making, linebackers, defensive linemen, safety, whatever, missing in space. And I don't know if Texas Tech missed a single tackleable tackle in this game. It was an incredible defensive performance from Texas Tech. And I did not expect a shutout from Oregon. I did not expect some of the issues Oregon had on offense, specifically, as good as Texas Tech's defense is, those high leverage moments, those fourth downs, the struggles with Dante Moore and the exchange fumble, the bad snap, the interception is whatever. It actually would have been, the same. It's kind of moot because they still gained yardage on the play, I think, had they even just thrown an intercepted, had he even thrown an incomplete pass, excuse me. But yeah, the high leverage moment struggles for Oregon on offense, deep in the red zone and going for it on fourth down instead of taking points or instead of taking a punt, given how much Texas Tech's offense had struggled. It's worthwhile to question Oregon in those moments. Dante Moore also missed a wide open Kenyon Sadiq early in the second half on a 4th and short play action pass that would have ended up in a touchdown, easy touchdown. It looked like you were watching the Skycast more than I was. But all in all, it's hard to complain about anything. Even with the valid offensive complaints from Oregon, when your team wins a playoff game, it was 16-0 and it was a touchdown in garbage time for Oregon. But Oregon made the Texas Tech offense and Baron Morton look like pretenders. Look, it's fair to say that Texas Tech's offense was worse than it had shown all season long by a considerable margin. You want to blame the layoff? That's fine. I'm certainly, as an Oregon human, used to looking at that long layoff as a reason why a team could start out the game, at least, in a sluggish manner. Baron Morton looked lost. He looked skittish. He looked like he didn't want to make mistakes. He was off the entire game. The run game could get nothing going. The offensive line for Texas Tech was overwhelmed by Oregon up front for most of this game. They had a couple of explosion plays, but this was a team that, if we're going to believe at some point they settled in with the stage, looked like they had no concept of how to play against a defense as good and as talented as Oregon's, because they simply did not play a team anywhere near this level on their Big 12 schedule.
All right.
That's what became apparent to me, because they just could not navigate what Oregon was doing on defense.
All right. So let me pause you for a second.
Please.
Pause the Oregon guy for a second.
Please.
Give the verballerhood an objective third-party view.
Okay.
Buddy, I watched that game.
0. They scored 0.
I watched that game. I was receiving texts from other non-Oregon people, non-Texas Tech people who were also watching that game.
Yeah.
Most of the people I talked to were bored out of their gourd watching that. This was not a stellar offensive performance one way or another. To your point that you have made time and again, it doesn't need to be pretty. It just needs to work. And it worked way better for Oregon than it did for Texas Tech. I thought both defenses obviously carried their weight in this one. Texas Tech on defense did everything imaginable to keep themselves in that game. They didn't get blown off the field by an Oregon offense. I thought they made the Oregon offense look rather ordinary for a good chunk of this game.
Yes.
And so that was a huge credit to them and a huge credit to what they did in the offseason and what they did all season long under Shieldwood and Joey McGuire, and even throw Cody Campbell in there to reconstitute their defensive front and turn themselves into a team that had a first-round bye.
Yeah.
So I want to give credit where it's due. You're 100% right to say that they looked lost on offense.
Yes.
And I hate to sound mean, but at one point in the fourth quarter, for people watching the game, when they came back from commercial, they showed the Capital One guy throwing oranges rather cheekily with the Orange Bowl trophy, throwing oranges, and just sort of, they told him to have a good time in front of the camera.
Yeah, that was part of, I'm sure, the deal where they have to show him on the sideline. Yes.
My first thought was, can he play quarterback in the fourth quarter?
Yeah.
Because to say, as you did on our Slack chat, that Baron Morton was seeing ghosts implies that Baron Morton saw it all in this game. I thought he looked dreadful. You could say he looked jumpy. You could say he made bad decisions. You can call it whatever suits you best.
Yeah.
He did not live up to the bill in this game. And I felt bad at the end. He's crying. And he had a very good year, as did Texas Tech, to get to this game at all.
Yeah.
But their offense let him down. They didn't really run all that well. Outside of a longer run earlier in the game, nothing there on the ground. The passing attack, either because of pressure coming from the Oregon front or because of inaccurate throws or bad decisions or whatever, it was probably a combination of all of the above. That was not there either.
Right.
So it is unfortunate that Texas Tech went out like this with a whimper, scoring 0 points in arguably the biggest game in program history. If we are to believe the effort afoot at Texas Tech, they will be back in this game before long. But this was undeniably a very underwhelming showing for Texas Tech and for the Big 12. And I'm not going to blow this out of proportion and make it any sort of grand indictment on the conference as a whole.
Yeah.
I don't want to go there with it. Texas Tech was deserving of being in this game. They just did not show up today. Yeah. And that was a huge blemish, I think, to whatever story we told ourselves about Texas Tech being this dark horse contender as the 4 seed coming into this tournament. They just did not look the part. On the Oregon front, I wasn't blown away either, frankly, but they did a lot more. They didn't commit the big mistakes. Texas Tech had 4 of them.
Yeah.
And we could debate which ones were more backbreaking than others, but those 4 mistakes ultimately is what cost Texas Tech the game. Aside of the fact that they couldn't really get any momentum going when they had the ball.
Buddy, even when they weren't making the mistakes, they weren't doing anything on offense, right? It's on one hand is what you can count the really positive plays from this Texas Tech offense.
Now, let me ask you a question as the Oregon guy here.
Okay, I'm ready.
You mentioned some of the concerns that we may have about the Oregon offense.
Mm-hmm.
My impression watching this game was neither team really knocked me over all that much. Okay. Defensively, yes. But given the state of affairs, given the fact that Oregon had a number of chances that they did not convert on, and given the fact that, at least for me, from afar, again, I'm not the Oregon fan among us, but I looked at the 3rd and 4th down play calling and I scratched my chin a little bit and I said, okay, some curious decisions there.
Yeah.
Do you have any issue? Do you have any concerns now moving on in this tournament based on what we saw from Oregon in some of those types of moments?
Right now? Nope.
Okay. You'll just take the win is what you're saying.
You're in a playoff situation if you're the Oregon Ducks.
Okay.
Did not come through in high leverage moments. Did not have the explosivity that you had all season long from your running backs, from your receivers, from your tight ends, by and large. Made mistakes that would be killer against a lot of teams. Right? The bad snaps when you're trying to get points before the half, taking yourself out of field goal range, making mistakes in the red zone, and you won the game 23-0. Let's go through some teams, Ty. Would a Notre Dame fan be okay right now today with a 23-0 quarterfinal win?
You will take it.
Penn State.
Hey,
Texas. Ohio State. How would Ohio State feel about a 23-0 quarterfinal win in this moment?
Dan, Notre Dame won ugly. the entire way through to the national championship last year. Yeah,
Yes.
you'll take it.
It's a playoff game. And if the result of the playoff game is you winning in a shutout, you say, and Tom Herman wasn't a great coach for Texas all of the time, but he had the okay, hook 'em. Okay, go Ducks, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Everybody said, are you concerned about the Oregon defense after giving up 34 points to James Madison? And I said, nope. They were up 48-13 in that game going into the fourth quarter. And am I concerned about the Oregon offense moving forward against Indiana or Alabama, whoever they end up playing as we record this game right after Oregon has won? I am not, because the name of the game is playing winning football despite mistakes. And sure, I'd love for Oregon to be precise. I'd love for Oregon to come out with a game plan that Texas Tech could not have possibly seen coming. Oregon just beat one of the 1 to 3 best defenses in the country. And even though the Texas Tech offense did not belong in this tournament whatsoever, this was a November offense playing in January. I think we can agree.
Yeah.
When you say that, Texas Tech was not underwhelming in this game. The Texas Tech offense was underwhelming in this game. The Texas Tech defense paired with any above average playoff offense could win a national championship without question in my mind. They're that good. They're that talented up front. They're that fast, even though maybe the secondary isn't where other, national championship caliber defenses are. What they look like up front, how well coached they are. This is a national championship defense. The problem is Texas Tech did not build a full team. Not in 1 year. They're recruiting well. They're going to build on this year. They're going to be a force moving forward.
They will. Absolutely.
But also, if you're an Oregon fan, you can say, well, not right now, not today. You win playoff games. And so it feels good, especially after last year. I wasn't happy in a lot of those moments, but now upon reflection, you just can't apologize after winning a game 23-0. You just can't. So I'm okay with it. I thought it was strange as an Oregon fan to have a kicker as good as Addis Sappington was in this one. Automaticus is what Oregon fans call him.
Yeah.
Opened the game up with a 50-yard bomb. That's pretty good. That's strange for me as an Oregon fan to see. That was great. I thought all things considered, the Oregon running backs, even though there was nothing there and they couldn't break tackles, they ran hard the entirety of this game. I would love to see Dante Moore receive 0 running play calls moving forward.
Yeah. He looked a little banged up in this one.
Well, not only to look banged up, but every single time he came to a fork in the road. Should I follow this guy or should I go to that lane? Without hesitation, he took the wrong way every time. And he's just not a natural runner, and that's okay. Not every quarterback is. He's athletic enough to buy time and hopefully scan downfield and make plays. We've also gone, 13 plus minutes now without mentioning the name Brandon Finney.
Brandon Finney had a monster game. Brandon Finney had 2 interceptions, I believe, had a fumble recovery as well. He's a young player in the Oregon secondary. Yeah. So all of that for sure is exciting for the future. But to get this kind of experience in a high leverage situation like this, second round of the college football playoff, that's confidence your secondary can build on. And it's something that the defense can build on, right? Mm-hmm. To your point of, were there questions after JMU? Should there have been questions after JMU? Obviously, they put a lot of those to bed here, but to have true freshmen step up in the manner that he did, if you're an Oregon fan, you got to be delighted about that.
Yeah. Should also mention the Sun Belt scored 34 points on the road at a Big Ten team in the previous round. The Big 12 did not score a single point. The Americans scored 10 points against an SEC team on the road. The Big 12 did not manage to score a point. And I don't say that to make fun of the Big 12. There are quality teams in the Big 12. These teams are going to grow. BYU had a true freshman quarterback. Texas Tech's offense is going to improve. But let's all calm down with the G5 teams, it's a safety issue. They had to travel across the country. It's just, let them play for something that can we all take a break from that now? Texas Tech is going to grow into something fiercer. And you should watch out if you're in the Big 12. Oregon did a really nice job getting this team ready to play. Even though it was a body clock situation, maybe, they certainly on that opening drive looked ready to roll. Right? They were moving the ball downfield, even with as much as Texas Tech was able to sort of silence the run game. Oregon has things to clean up, and that's what if you're a coach, you love to have, right? That you can self-scout and say, look, it's great to win, just like they could do after the first round game against James Madison. It's great to win a playoff game, and you just move on and you're happy to do it. But that Oregon didn't win this game 45-0, fully operational, I think keeps the team locked in to a certain extent. They have a game in whatever it is, 8 or 9 days. They'll be playing in Atlanta against, once again, the winner of Indiana, Alabama. And they have things to clean up. They need to work on the play calling. They need to work on just getting healthy. The offensive line could definitely get better. And they're doing this with two coordinators that are working two extremely full-time jobs in Will Stein and Tosh Lupoy. So really nice win for Oregon. Oregon shut out a very good team in a playoff game. I'm not going to bathe in the "are you worried" jacuzzi in this moment.
Talk me through your current heart rate right now as you think about Oregon going into the semifinals, because either way, regardless of who the opponent is, as we record this early afternoon on New Year's Day, either way, it's going to be a matchup against one of the top teams in college football, right? A traditional blue blood, perhaps in Alabama or Indiana, depending on who emerges from that Rose Bowl. One would be a rematch. One would be just a matchup against a team that has been at top college football for, a decade and a half now.
And by the way, I mean, here's the sidebar.
You've got to be pretty excited if you're an Oregon fan.
Sidebar on, if Alabama were to beat Indiana, again, we're recording this a little before kickoff. A lot of scar tissue, Dan Lanning, Kalen DeBoer.
That's what I'm saying, man.
A lot of scar tissue there. That Kalen DeBoer with 3 straight against Oregon, and the manner in which they won those games late, the back and forth nature of those matchups with Washington, not nothing in terms of the emotion of that game. Obviously, Oregon would say, it's a new team, it's a different situation. Kalen DeBoer is great, blah, blah, blah. But for those of us who lived through the emotion of those games, it's meaningful. And it's meaningful if Oregon had the opportunity to get a win against Indiana, especially losing at home. So, yeah, my heart rate right now is fine, because if you're rooting for a team in this playoff, once again, you take the win however you can get it. And you know that your team is good enough to compete with the best. And if they're able to clean up whatever they need to clean up, they have a good chance. And once you get to that Final Four, everybody's going to be in that spot. All of these teams have shown flaws. All of these potential teams have shown reasons why they could win huge. And so my heart rate's fine. My heart rate's totally fine. I am coaching a first grade basketball practice at kickoff of the semifinals. Okay. We have practice from 6 to 7 Central, and kickoff is right around 6:30.
You might want to move that. Can you move it?
I can't move it. I actually consider going to Atlanta. Obviously, my duties as a head coach supersede everything.
Sure.
So I think truly I'm going to have to turn off my phone, and when parents come to pick up.
Oh, I love this for you.
I
love this for you. I love this for you.
Do you have any recommendation otherwise?
No, of course not.
Okay.
I would say either bring like a laptop or a phone or an iPad or something that can stream the game while you're doing the thing, and maybe put a little AirPod in. But if you want to go full dedication to the cause, then I don't see another way through this. Otherwise, you could turn it over to an assistant.
Yeah.
If you care about the game, if you want to go to Atlanta or whatever.
No, this is the first practice. I need to establish my alphaness in this moment.
You're already showing Mario Cristobal poor time management skills is what we're seeing here out of Coach Dan.
Buddy, I did not anticipate. I don't want Friday evening practice. This is what we were given. No, very excited as an Oregon person to see them in the Final Four. Obviously, Oregon's been in this spot before in the smaller playoff. Kudos once again to Texas Tech for a crazy impressive season, and kind of why we talk about winter wonders a little bit on this show. Kind of why we say, do you have that player that scares everybody on New Year's Day, on January 14th, whatever? And Texas Tech will get those guys. They will develop those guys, and they will have a terrific path to get back to the playoff. Oregon had more of those guys on both sides of the ball, especially on offense, to get the job done-ish. And we'll see what that looks like as they match up further and further, hopefully, for me. Yeah, I don't think I mean, look, Mateo Uyunglele with arguably the game-changing play of the game.
Strip sack, yeah.
Into strip sack football against the back of Baron Morton's jersey before grabbing it and running through a couple of Texas Tech players to get inside the 5.
A tough one for Baron Morton, a tough one for Texas Tech, but a big one for Oregon. The 13-1 fifth-seeded Oregon Ducks win by a 23-0 score over Texas Tech. The Red Raiders finished the year with a 12-2 mark. Big 12 champions, yet another team to fall victim to not just the Oregon Ducks, but perhaps the bye week in a developing story that we will continue to cover on the show. Please hit subscribe. Please hit follow if you have yet to do so. Leave a comment down below. We'd love to get your thoughts on this game and many more. We'll be going live after each of the games in sequence as they conclude here over the remainder of the day. So keep it locked in here. You'll hear more from us a little bit later. In the meantime, for that guy, Dan, for myself, Ty, Oregon wins 23-0. We'll catch you soon. Stay solid.
Peace.